Picture this: a school where the rules of reality unravel, where physics falters, time twists like a fraying thread, and shadows murmur your name in the dark. The walls pulse with a life of their own, and the air hums with secrets steeped in centuries of dread. Imagine walking those halls, not as a student, but as prey. Tonight, we unravel the true story of a high school that fell silent after a cascade of sinister, inexplicable events. What began as hushed rumors grew into bone-chilling revelations. What started as whispers ended in screams. In the unassuming town of Willow Creek, where autumn leaves drift lazily and neighbors exchange curt nods, Westfield High stood as a relic of ordinary adolescence. Its weathered brick facade flickering fluorescent lights, and rows of creaking lockers blended into the backdrop of teenage monotony. No one gave it a second thought. No one suspected the malevolence coiled beneath its foundation. That is, until the lockdown. It was a frigid Tuesday morning, the sky a slab of grey, when the first crack in reality appeared. Students shuffled through the halls half asleep, their breath visible in the chilly air, unaware that the veil between this world and something far darker had worn thin. It began in the girls' restroom on the second floor, a scream, sharp and guttural, slicing through the morning hum. A freshman girl stumbled out, her face drained of colour, babbling about a figure in the mirror, pale, motionless, watching her with eyes that didn't blink. She described a girl in a tattered white dress, her long, stringy hair draped over most of her face, her bare feet hovering just above the tiles. The story spread like wildfire. By lunch, whispers filled the cafeteria. The girl in white was real. Teachers rolled their eyes, chalking it up to teenage hysterics. Kids see what they want to see, they said. But then Sarah disappeared. Sarah was 16, a quiet girl with a bright smile and a knack for poetry. She'd gone to the same restroom during third period, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She never came out. Not figuratively, literally. The door was unlocked, the room empty, her bag gone. Surveillance cameras in the hall showed her entering, then nothing. The footage glitched, looping static, the last clear frame capturing Sarah glancing toward the far stall, her eyes wide, her lips parting in a silent gasp. The principal called a lockdown, but it wasn't to keep danger out. It was to trap something inside. The days that followed were a descent into unease. Doors slammed shut with no one near them, the sound echoing like gunfire through empty corridors. Faucets in the bathrooms dripped a thick, rust-red liquid that smelled of iron and decay. Certain hallways grew so cold that students' breath hung in clouds, even with the heaters blasting. In some classrooms, the air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if it resisted being breathed. The girl in white became more than a rumor. Students claimed to see her standing at the end of hallways, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her body unnervingly still. She didn't move, didn't speak, just watched, her presence a weight that pressed against the chest. The school buzzed with silent panic. Some students swore they felt unseen hands brush their necks in empty stairwells. Others woke in class, disoriented, unsure if they'd been asleep or something else. One boy, a senior named Ethan, said he'd heard a voice in his ear during algebra, whispering his name over and over, though no one was behind him. The terror wasn't just in sightings. It was in the way the school itself seemed to turn against them. Lockers rattled at night. Lights flickered in patterns that felt deliberate. And always, there was the sense of being watched. 5 students: Ethan, his girlfriend Mia, her younger brother Caleb, and their friends Lila and Noah, decided they'd had enough of fear and silence. They were tired of the adults' dismissals, the way teachers avoided their questions with tight smiles. Armed with flashlights, a shaky sense of bravery, and a phone to record evidence, they snuck into the school after hours, heading straight for the girls' restroom. They expected creaks, maybe a trick of the light. They didn't expect the door to slam shut behind them, the lock clicking with a sound like a bone snapping. Inside, the air was thick, the mirrors fogged despite the cold. Their flashlights cast jittery beams across the tiles. Then they saw her. She stood before the largest mirror, her back to them, her white dress stained with ash and something darker. Her hair hung in wet, matted clumps, and her skin was the color of sun-bleached bone. But the reflection, it was wrong. The girl in the mirror grinned, her lips splitting into a jagged smile, while the figure herself remained still. Caleb whimpered, his flashlight shaking. The lights flickered, plunging the room into brief darkness. When they snapped back on, she turned. Her eyes were voids, black and bottomless, like staring into an abyss that stared back. She opened her mouth and a dry, rasping hiss filled the room, like dead leaves scraping pavement. The lights died again. In the darkness, something cold brushed Mia's arm. When the lights returned, the girl was gone. But Noah clutched his neck, blood seeping between his fingers from 3 deep scratch marks. The group stumbled out, pale and shaking, but their story was met with laughter from teachers and a week's suspension for trespassing. Yet something in the staff's eyes, too quick to look away, too tense, hinted at secrets. The 5 students refused to let it go. They scoured the school's archives, dug through dusty newspapers in the town library, and uncovered a truth the town had buried deep. Westfield High was built on the ruins of a juvenile sanatorium, a grim institution shuttered in the 1940s after a fire killed dozens. Among the dead was a girl named Eliza, 16, a patient accused of starting the blaze. Locals whispered she'd been tormented, locked in isolation, her cries ignored. Her body was never found, and some believed she was entombed beneath the sanatorium's foundation, her rage smouldering through the decades. The hauntings grew bolder. Words appeared in condensation on windows and mirrors. Burn. Watch. Again. Voices echoed in empty classrooms, faint but unmistakable, chanting names of students who passed by. Chalkboards filled with writing overnight, answers to questions no one had asked, pleas for help in a language no one recognized. Then Eliza spoke, not aloud, but in the mind, her voice slithering into dreams and waking thoughts. She was angry, trapped, her pain a wound that refused to heal. Desperate, the students tried everything. Salt circles, whispered prayers, sage smudged in corners. Nothing worked. But one day Lila, who'd always been sensitive to the unseen, fell into a trance during history class. Her eyes rolled back, and she muttered a question. "What do you want?" The next morning, a single word was scrawled across the classroom wall in red chalk. Truth. They knew what they had to do. On a moonless night, the 5 returned to the bathroom, this time with candles and trembling resolve. They called her name, Eliza, 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 each syllable heavier than the last. The air grew thick, the candles flickering as if struggling to breathe. Then she appeared, not as a ghost, but as a tear in reality itself. Her form shifted between a young girl and a charred corpse, her dress smouldering, her face a mask of anguish and rage. Her voice came from everywhere, the walls, the pipes, the grinding of metal in the vents. She didn't want rest. She wanted justice. She wanted her story told, her pain remembered. The students made a vow. They would share her story, ensure her name lived on, not as a monster, but as a girl wronged by a cruel world. They wrote it down, posted it online, whispered it to anyone who'd listen. And slowly, the school quieted. The lockdown lifted, but Westfield High was forever changed. The halls were too silent, the lights perpetually dim, as if the building itself held its breath. Some say Eliza still lingers, no longer vengeful, just there, watching from the mirrors, waiting for someone to forget her truth. If you've ever felt a chill in a bathroom mirror, a presence just out of sight, you might not be alone. Share your stories below, and if you crave more tales of the paranormal, subscribe. The past doesn't always stay buried, and sometimes it's waiting for you to look closer.